Hello and welcome to Taylor Talks Comics. I have another overview for you today, and this one, I have to say, is one of my favorite reads ever. So stay tuned. Alright, so if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know I love Silver Age comics. If you're not a longtime viewer of the channel, then please subscribe if you haven't already. And for everybody, give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that as well. And share this channel with all your comic book loving friends. That's the best way you can support me and my channel, is to share these videos with your friends and share them in your various Facebook groups or stuff that you're in, of other comic book readers that you know. I'd appreciate that as well. So, yes, if you're a long-time viewer, you know I love Silver Age comics. Silver Age Marvel, I've often called as like the greatest accomplishment in fiction, the greatest era of fiction. You can compare it to Harry Potter or Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, or Shakespeare, whatever you want to compare it to. I think Marvel Silver Age is the best. Just the amount of characters, the amount of talent, the amount of beautiful artwork and stories that they've created in that little short amount of time. So, I do agree with the consensus that Ditko Spider-Man and Lee Kirby Fantastic Four are like the two best, the two peaks of that era. But I have to put this up there with it now. This is my first time reading Captain America of the Silver Age, and we're going to dive into this Omnibus. It was such a blast to read this. So this is the cover. I think they only released one cover for this. Maybe they had a DM cover. Actually, I could probably tell you. It would probably be back here if it was. Yeah, I don't know. Because this is an older omnibus. I think it's out of print right now. And it might be out of print right now, but if it ever comes back into print, or if you find the Epic Collections or something else, I hope that I can convince you to read these stories because they're so good. Here's the spine. It has the classic Marvel Omnibus spine with the bigger lettering. I'm sure if they reprint this, it'll have the smaller lettering to match what they did with Volume 3 that just came out a couple years ago. The only three creative names on the spine are Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Jim Steranko. This is Volume 1 down there. And then in the classic Marvel manner, we've got the back of the omnibus with all the covers that are included. Then underneath the dust jacket, this is one of the, you can tell this is one of the older omnibuses. The flaps just have like this words and stuff. Because it has like that faux leather look to it. Again, if they reprint this will probably be different. It's got the silver spine to it too. This will probably be red and black. And then it'll probably have a shield on the back too. That's something they've been doing lately. And then on the in papers here, you get that marble look. Marble. Try to say that 10 times fast. And then we get that cover image of Captain America. And here you get the great credits page. They always do a great credits page where they show the creators involved and what issues they worked on. This collects Tales of Suspense 59 through 99 and Captain America 100 through 113. Here's the table of contents to tell you the title of each issue, what number it was, and what page you can find it on. So another great resource while you're reading this. And this includes all of the introductions that were written for the Marvel Masterworks. So this was the era of Marvel, which they still kind of do this sometimes, but where they basically would do 3 Marvel Masterworks, and then they would compile those 3 volumes into an omnibus. So this collects each introduction. And the introduction, the way they're put into the book, is actually before the issues of those, where the Masterworks ended. So the first Masterworks was here, the section here to here, where my thumb and my finger are. And then you get another introduction. And then Volume 2, the Masterworks was here to here, and then you get another introduction. So they're compiled in there in order too, because the introduction is very much focused in on the issues you would find ahead. So this is Captain America when he returns to Marvel after the Golden Age. So if you're not familiar, Avengers issue 4, number 4, they find Captain America was frozen under ice or in ice, and they thaw him out, and then he's back in present day. But he's a soldier out of time because it's 20 years later, so he was frozen for 20 years. He's behind the times, I guess, if you can imagine that. But this is Tales of Suspense was a split comic book, so it would have an 11-page strip of Captain America and an 11-page strip of Iron Man, and they would kind of alternate who got the cover. All the covers are included in here, though, even if Iron Man was the main feature of the cover. So these first, like I said, it collects 59 through 99 of Tales of Suspense. And those first 40 issues are just like 11-page strips because they don't collect the Iron Man stuff, only the Captain America stuff. And then it was renumbered. Tales of Suspense went defunct, and they renamed it to Captain America and started with 100. So Tales of Suspense 99 went on the racks. The next month was Captain America 100. So already out of the gates, great splash page from Jack Kirby of Captain America busting out of a window. So these first few stories in here were quote-unquote present-day comics of the Silver Age. So whenever Captain America was part of the Avengers. So you get a lot of stories in here of him hanging out at the Avengers Mansion and just fighting a bunch of guys. Like, this is such a great fight comic. Like, the fighting choreography of Jack Kirby is like what people talk about with like John Wick movies now today. His fight choreography is just insane. Like how fluid the movement is from panel to panel. It's like almost watching animation with the characters. And I love the contrast in coloring too. I don't know if do they credit the colorist in this? I know back then they didn't really credit colorists. No, they do the restoration, but that's it. But the coloring back then too, Marvel had this this edict, I guess, this mandate that all of the heroes were in primary colors and the villains were in secondary colors, and it really made them pop. So you see like the red, white, and blue of Cap against the purple of the villains here, and it really helps that fluidity of the scenes here. And then you get all the Mails of Suspense, which is what the letter pages were called. And these are great too. I love reading these because these are such a capsule of time. Like I always kind of say it's like what Twitter was back then, because it's the reactions to each issue. And they do have, so they were like 3 months delayed on the letters. So a lot of the letters will be like talking about 3 issues before, if that makes sense. I do kind of wish they compiled them out of order, but where the letters were referring to the issue you just read. I think that would have been, it wouldn't be true to how the issues were released, but it would make more sense reading it now, today, in the context of this omnibus. Let me know if you agree with that or disagree, but it'd be great to be reading letters about the issue you just read. That's what I'm trying to get to. And then we have some more issues. So the first few issues is Captain America fighting in current day, just going on these adventures. Rick Jones is involved because Rick Jones was kind of his sidekick back then. Rick Jones really tried to... There's some great early issues of Avengers, too, where Rick Jones is really trying to... He wants to replace Bucky. He wants to be the new sidekick for Captain America, but Captain America is like, absolutely not. I can't go through that again. Because a lot of what you see in these stories is Captain America struggling with the idea that Bucky died on his watch. That he had this young kid that he was willing to take around on these adventures, but then but Bucky died. So he has a lot of issues with that, and a lot of like almost PTSD with it. And I think that's what was endearing about this comic as well, is that like the psyche of Captain America he's a messed up character as far as like all the things that he went through, and that affects him as a human being. And that's what was endearing to me as reading this, was that like he is just a human being. He's not like just the Superman of Marvel where he can just do anything and nothing happens to him and nothing's wrong and he can handle anything kind of thing. Like he really is kind of a messed up in the like mentally. Like he has a lot of mental health issues. And I don't know, it's just super endearing to go through that. So then you get into this era of these comics where they're World War II stories. So it's Jack Kirby in the Silver Age going back to the World War II days of where Captain America and Bucky were together. And it always kind of, it surprises me, going back and reading these and reading the early Adventures comics, how much Bucky played a part in the Silver Age of Marvel. Because before I'd read any of this, it was always kind of impressed upon me that Bucky was like, he died in the Golden Age, you know, presumably, and he didn't come back until Winter Soldier when Ed Brubaker did his Captain America run. But now, like, reading this, if I were to go back and read the Ed Brubaker Winter Soldier stuff, I think it would have a bigger impact on me, because if Bucky's not in these issues, which he is on this era of World War II stories, he's in every single issue. If he's not in these issues, Captain America's talking about him constantly. Just talking about what the loss of Bucky meant to him. And these first 40 issues, like I said, they're 11-page strips, so they go by fast. Like, these are fast-paced stories. And Jack Kirby's just cramming in everything he can. Like I said, it's a giant fight comic at times. It's a war comic during this era, where he's in World War II. And then later in the book, we'll get to like more of like the spies and espionage era of Captain America stories. So it's like there's so much variety packed into this one single omnibus, and the fast pace of these 11-page issues was just a rollicking, like, swashbuckling adventure. Each issue just like flying through each page. It is always great too to read. I don't think there's anybody on this one. Yeah, there's not. But reading these letters too, you'll find people that back then they were just fans, but they'd go on to be writers. Like, I found a lot of Steve Gerber letters in here. I think Roy Thomas had an early one before he jumped into the Marvel bullpen. I know George R.R. Martin was a big time letter writer for Marvel too. I don't know if any of his appear in here, but it's great to see some of those people that went on to do comics and stories and stuff. So eventually, and in the letters too, I was kind of surprised. It's always been impressed upon me as well that the Iron Man of the Silver Age was not very popular. And I think that's more of a modern take on it, because reading the letters, because these letters are just like the exact letter column that appeared in Tales of Suspense, which, like I said, was like Iron Man and Captain America. So the letters will be talking about either Captain America or Iron Man. And there's so many letters that are talking about how much they love the Iron Man stories. And I was like, man, like, if I were just to read the letters from this and I had not heard anything from a modern opinion, I would assume that Iron Man was like one of the most popular comics of this era. So it makes me excited, because I never read that era of Iron Man, and that omnibus is being reprinted later this year. I have a dog-eared corner there. So it makes me kind of excited to read those, to see what the hubbub was about, if you will. So, yeah, you get, eventually, all the letters, too, are asking for, and I'm like, can you just put Captain America back in the present time? I'm kind of tired of these World War II stories. And I was kind of like, I kind of love them, though. But when he gets back in present time, they do listen to the fans and bring him back. When he gets back, it's a fun adventure where you get more into, like, the SHIELD era stuff with a lot of, like, gadgets and spies and espionage, like I said. And here's a Gil Kane fill-in issue, because Jack Kirby does the vast majority of this book. I'd say like 90% of the artwork in this book is Jack Kirby. Gil Kane does a few issues. Here's another Gil Kane issue. Red Skull's constantly being killed or brought back, or you think he's back. Here's Bucky Barnes. It looks like he's back from the dead at one point. Like, kind of a lot of twists and turns throughout this entire thing too. Who does this one? Oh, Gil Kane. So yeah, Gil Kane does this trilogy of issues that all focus around Red Skull, kind of torturing Captain America with his own memory of Bucky. And then Jack is back, I believe. No, this is another Gil Kane. Okay, I was wrong. Oh, also a weird thing. So Stan always had nicknames for everybody. Gil Kane's what's called Sugar Lips. I never heard of... you hear Stan the Man Lee. You hear Jack the King Kirby. You hear, like, Smilin' Sal Buscema. But I never heard of Gil Sugar Lips Kane. That was always a weird one for me. Now Jack's back. And just Jack Kirby's artwork back then was just so amazing. The figures are constantly like just action figures. Like, they look like giant action figures. And like I said, none of the figures are ever like just static in motion, just standing still, upright. Like, they're always moving. constantly. And like I said, the fight choreography was just like we were watching an animated cartoon or something. And then like the gadgets he would come up with, like these crazy like what is he wearing? Like that's not even a thing that even happened in the future, but it's such a sci-fi pulp kind of thing that you would see. And then eventually towards the end here, you see like Jack Kirby really experimenting with these 4-panel grids. You get these giant panels of artwork by Jack Kirby. But don't worry, Stan's still fixing all of his dialogue and whatnot, which I don't mind. I love Stan Lee dialogue. I really do. I think the more Silver Age Marvel I read, the more endearing it is to me. Just like his pattern of writing is so fluid and charming. I don't know if I've said that word or not. MODOK, one of the greatest, weirdest characters ever. I can't get enough MODOK. But then, let me see here. Let's flip on through here a little bit more. So much great Jack Kirby artwork. It pains me to skip them. But this is this is Jack Kirby. Oh, okay. I'm trying to find the last few issues here because there's a... Oh, actually, you know what? I should go to issue 100. So when I was reading like the 11 page strips, when I got to where Captain America had his own title, this is the last issue of Tales of Suspense, and then Captain America 100. And this is the big premiere issue, they say. When I got to this point, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I love the pacing of the 11 page strips. I don't know if I'm going to love when it's a full comic in 22 pages. It might be a little too slow for me at that point, but it wasn't. Jack Kirby definitely uses those extra pages he can to fill in with such great action and storytelling that this didn't stall for me at all in these last 13 or so issues. I do want to talk about, so that's Steranko. I think this is the Jack Kirby issue, yeah. Because Jim Steranko comes back on. Or doesn't come back on, I should say. He comes on. And I think... Is this the first Steranko issue? Yes, okay. I just want to be sure, sorry. Yeah, so this is the last Kirby issue, the origin of Captain America, which they retell that origin a few times throughout this book, which is interesting, and this quality of writing back, or I mean the style of writing back then, because not everyone had read the origin, and not everybody had access to those old issues and whatnot. This is the first Jim Steranko issue. So Jim Steranko had the long run on S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury's comic, and I think this is one of the later things that he did with Marvel. But you can see just what a revelation of his artwork style was and his panel layouts. And I know that Steranko being given... Jack Kirby really wanted writing duties on his comics for a number of years, but Stan just wouldn't let go of that. But then when Stan gave like Jim Steranko the ability to write his own comics, I think that really struck a nerve with Kirby. A great 2-page splash by Steranko. Just admire the beauty in that. And that would be something that Kirby would start playing with in the 70s, which is shortly after this. Kirby leaves this and goes to DC a couple years later. And he would start doing these double-page splashes. But it seemed like Steranko was given a lot more freedom, and Jack Kirby really wished that he was given that opportunity. But unfortunately, he was not until the 70s when he would return. But again, these silent pages with some great lettering in there too, which I think Steranko would have done all that lettering inside the panels. But just his style of drawing had some the action and stuff felt like it had Kirby fused into it, but just a lot of the other imageries and the other panel layouts and stuff like that were just pure. That looks kind of like Stanley. Looks like pure Jim Steranko. Even the flashback in black and white. These panel layouts, these were so innovative for the Silver Age. Jim Steranko's... So these 3 issues, and then again a double page splash, were such a masterclass of storytelling that I think they would eventually bleed into what Gene Colan did in the next Omnibus. I think he kind of was inspired by that as well. So then issue 112, Steranko needed some time to catch up before he got to 113. So now this is Jack Kirby telling I think the cartoonist kayfabe guys called this kind of like Captain America Grand Design. Like Piscor did X-Men Grand Design, and Jim Rugg did Hulk, and Tom Scioli did Fantastic Four Grand Design. They kind of called this like Jack Kirby's Captain America Grand Design. You get these giant panels of Jack Kirby just going through the history of Captain America and everything that he went through, and all the twists and turns and stuff that he's been forced to go through as well. And you get Iron Man at the end. He's watching a video. That's what the whole issue was about. It was Iron Man watching a video about Captain America. And he gets Steranko's last issue. And in this one, Steranko takes, and over across the 3 issues, he retcons something for him. Because before this, like somewhere in the 3/4 part of the book, Captain America reveals his identity. Somewhere around there. So Jim Steranko hated that. And across, there's another great 2-page splash by Steranko. Across the 3 issues that he takes over, he retcons that in a way that in the next Omnibus, or the next issues, next run going forward, he has a secret identity again. So an afterword by Jim Steranko about his time run on the book. We get an issue of Not Brown Eck with a Captain America story in it. And this is all artwork by Tom Sutton. This is where you're going to get like the back matter here. We get some cover image, inked cover image, and then the cover pencils for 105. The splash to the great Grand Design issue that I talked about. And these were issues that reprinted a lot of these stories. So these are all the covers for those reprinted issues, which are great that they collect those in here. And then, oh, the Marvel Essential covers and stuff, which were included these as well. So that's Captain America, Volume 1. Like I said, it's up there with Ditko Spider-Man, up there with Lee Kirby, Fantastic Four, for me as a all-time great run of comics in the Silver Age. Those are like the 3 pillars, I think, of that era. I highly recommend reading this. If you can get it in Masterworks or Marvel Epic Collections, or when the Omnibus eventually gets reprinted, I can't recommend it enough. So I appreciate you watching. Give the video a thumbs up on your way out, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope you watch future videos. Have a great day. Keep reading comics.